Julius Erving, better known as Dr. J, was the best-loved and most iconic player in the NBA in the late 1970s. To this day, Erving is remembered as one of the greatest basketball players of all time. The Athletic ranked him number 19, and ESPN has him at number 15. And if Julius hadn't spent much of his prime in the now-defunct ABA, that could be higher. Dr. J is misunderstood and, therefore, somewhat underrated. Though often remembered as a flashy soloist type of player, his record really does not reflect that. He wasn't some old-school Allen Iverson. The man won 3 titles in his career, 2 in the ABA and 1 in the NBA. His play was important enough to his teams to warrant 3 MVP awards, and he won titles for 2 reasons far apart from his flashy image. First, he was a genuine leader that players admired and were inspired by. Second, Erving was an incredibly efficient player. We are talking about a lifetime 51% field goal shooter. So sure, Dr. J loved to show off with circus plays, but never at the expense of winning. Scoring 24.9 points per game with over 50% is not the hallmark of someone who puts flash over substance. Erving left college after his junior year. For many young players, that is a mistake. But in the case of Dr. J, what did he have left to learn? He scored over 26 points per game and already possessed one of the best skill sets of any player in history. Erving would get his BA degree after retirement. He had promised his mother to do so, and Julius is a man of his word. By his second season, Erving led the ABA in points with 31.9 points per game. Video footage from that season confirms Dr. J was already fully formed, and he was spectacular. In 1977, a Converse sneakers commercial celebrated the fantastic skills of Julius Erving. That jingle was spot on. Every time Julius Erving laced up his shoes, you knew something spectacular was about to happen. The amount of magic he created on the court is valuable, but one particular move stands above the rest in our imagination. Erving is one of those rare players for whose moves aren't just about scoring. Instead, they are a form of self-expression. And that is why Dr. J's moves are still remembered half a century later. While Erving was graceful, the player was also incredibly powerful. He once dunked on future Knicks player Tom Hoover and knocked out all his front teeth. It was Game 4 of the 1980 NBA Finals between Erving and the Sixers and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's Lakers. The game was a close one when Dr. J sprang into action. Erving was guarded by Lakers forward Mark Landsberger. Our hero beat him to the baseline and floated towards the rim in trademark fashion. Kareem wasn't having it and rose to block. Julius didn't panic at the sight of a 7'2" wall rising in front of him. Instead, he shifted his body away from the basket, seemingly out of position to score. Now, as we often say, players defy gravity. But here, Dr. J really did. He stayed in the air long enough to reverse course and lay in the basket from the other side. After scoring that incredible basket, Erving temporarily lost balance, but regained his footing. Erving then nonchalantly ran back to defend as the crowd lost its mind. The Sixers won that game, though they went on to lose the series in 6. Magic Johnson was an impressionable rookie at the time. Some experts believe that play changed the trajectory of the NBA. From 1960 to 1980, every single NBA MVP was a center. 6 of those were Kareem. But when Erving schooled Kareem, it inspired a new, more mobile version of the game. One where the guards ran rings around the big guys. And indeed, since that play, the vast majority of MVPs have been from smaller positions. Sure, there is a lot more to the shift from big centers as the focus of the game to the wings, but that play marks the watershed. When Erving played in college, NCAA rules forbade dunks. But the young doctor was already a master of the art and often dunked on the heads of hapless opponents in the ABA. However, it wouldn't be long before he brought the dunk from the margins of the game to center stage. In the 1976 ABA dunk contest, he memorably competed against George the Iceman Gervin and others. First, Erving dunked 2 balls with his usual grace and aplomb. Then, he changed the game forever. Dr. J ran to the opposite end of the court and back before dunking the basketball all the way from the free throw line. Always humble, Erving doesn't take credit for introducing the dunk to the masses. While it is true that others had dunked beautifully before Dr. J, he had the flair and the stage to make it mainstream. Basketball owes him a great debt for that. The NBA was far behind its ABA competitor in this regard. It wasn't until 1984 that the Unified League finally brought the dunk contest into the All-Star Game festivities. Of course, the first name they had in mind for the competition was Julius Erving. He was excited about the opportunity. If you had told Erving's schoolmates at Roosevelt High in Hempstead, New York, that this youngster would be one of the most beloved celebrities in America, they would have thought you were crazy. He was very shy and barely talked to anyone but his closest friends. But he really grew into a public role. Entire generations of fans remember him floating through the air, with his trademark afro moving independently of the rest of his body. Erving was by far the biggest star in the ABA during his years at the Virginia Squires and New York Nets. And after the 1976 NBA-ABA merger, he also became the face of the NBA. Despite being practically worshipped for his ridiculous basketball chops, Julius was remarkably humble. And in a flashy and self-centered decade, that was a refreshing change. Erving was known for making time to talk to fans and staff and help the lowliest teammates. On and off the court, Julius Erving was a leader and trailblazer with a unique combination of humility and flashy brilliance. There will never be another like him.